like to welcome you to WCTV's annual meeting. This evening, we'll follow a schedule of events including electing new officers to the Board of Directors. My name is Sandra Curtin, and for this year, I've been the President of the Board of Directors. So I'll speak first. Much to the relief of everyone here, I will speak briefly. First of all, I would like to focus on the 4 specific accomplishments of the 96-97 Board of Directors. Our objective was to have our policies and regulations actually fit what was being done at WCTV. So without neglecting the regular duties and decisions presented to us, the Board of Directors focused its efforts on these documents. The Employees Handbook was revised and updated, led by the efforts of the Personnel Committee, chaired by Henry Latta. Thank you, Henry. The Policies and Procedures Handbook was also revised and updated, led by the efforts of the Programming Committee chair, chaired by Jolene Meixler. Thank you, Jolene. And last of all, the WCTV Incorporated bylaws were revised and updated, led by the efforts of the Bylaws Ad Hoc Committee chaired by Cheryl Soderquist. Thank you, Cheryl. Additionally, we streamlined the board's committees to a less cumbersome organizational setup, which we hope will benefit future boards. Even though it took us most of the year to accomplish all of this, I'm proud to say that we achieved all of our goals. I've enjoyed working with the officers and members of the Board of Directors this year. Cooperation and respect for one another made each meeting a pleasure and actually fun. I appreciate all the help and support from my new acquaintances and from my longtime friends on the board. As you know, all the members of the board are volunteers. Each year, WCTV Incorporated benefits from the willingness of its volunteers to work to advance its name and reputation in the town of Wilmington. I would be remiss if I didn't mention a few of the achievements of the Executive Director, Ruth Kennedy. This year, she has introduced an intern program for Wilmington High School students. This has been very effective and has benefited both the students and WCTV. Ruth has worked tirelessly as an active member of the Cable Advisory Board. And although her work is not done yet and everything has not been voted on yet, she has done an outstanding job championing the cause of WCTV. In addition, Ruth and the advertiser have worked cooperatively to establish a bi-weekly byline about WCTV. So look for that in the advertiser. Over the years, I've had the pleasure of being involved with WCTV practically from its inception. I believe in the concept and value of access television. And by being here this evening, you also affirm your belief in that value. So thank you for your help, and let's proceed with the annual meeting. Our next order of business is to accept the minutes of the 1996 annual meeting. I believe that people received a copy of the minutes from that last meeting, and I would accept a motion for accepting those minutes. Okay, thank you, Henry. And a second? Mike?
I'd like to make 3 corrections in the treasurer's report section of it.
Okay.
On the line item, line 3, total expenses is $107,800. On line 7 is the net of 1995 depreciation. And on line 8, the balance at the end of 1995 is $293,800.
Okay. So could we have a motion to accept the minutes as amended by Mr. Nastepsky? Okay, thank you, Henry. And now a second? Okay, Paul Dion, thank you. So for the acceptance of the minutes, would you please vote by raising your hand to accept those minutes? Okay, thank you very much. The next order of business would be the Treasurer's annual report from Mike Nastepsky.
Good evening. How you doing, everybody? The Following is a preliminary summary of the financial position arising from cash transactions of Wilmington Community Television, a nonprofit organization as of December 31st, 1996. The total revenue of the station was $119,600. Total expenses in salaries and services was $66,300. Total administrative expenses were $16,400. Total other operating expenses were $23,200 for total expenses of $105,900, which gave us a revenue that exceeded expenses in 1996 of $13,700. Our capital expenditures were $4,200, which leaves us a balance of $9,500 of revenue beyond expenses. As of December 31st, 1996, Wilmington Community Television had $127,500 in assets, of which $105,000 was restricted for building acquisition, rehabilitation, or capital equipment. Before 1996 depreciation expense, Wilmington Community Television had a net property and equipment of $148,100 and a total liability and fund balance of $275,600. Financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 1996, with the accountant's review and report thereon, will be available in May of 1997. I would like to add a couple of comments. As I look back at the previous year and what we had budgeted, we came very close to what we had anticipated. Actually, we were a little ahead of budget. We had anticipated a revenue in excess of $3,300, and actually it came out to almost $10,000, $9,500 for the year. A lot of that was attributed to the fact that we were short of manpower during the year and didn't expend as much in salaries and services. For 1997, we've just approved a budget at our last board meeting in March, and we're anticipating a pretty much the same revenue, looking at about $118,000, and we're looking at increases in expenses and also in capital expenditures. In essence, we're looking at operating at about a $12,000 deficit for the coming year. The deficit is a planned deficit. We did not purchase much in equipment last year. This year here we have close to $10,000 in capital expenditures, $6,000 of which is going to be for equipment replacement, and that will come out of our capital fund that we have put aside as a restricted fund for the station. Unfortunately, I cannot announce tonight that we have signed a contract with Continental Cablevision, which would have been nice to announce, but that did run into a hitch. They had a preliminary acceptance from the Board of Selectmen, but because of language changes, everything is still being processed, and we are presently under a court injunction, I believe it is, to have Continental Cablevision provide service in Wilmington to us. And while the attorneys are working out the final details of the law and language inside the contract, and hopefully very shortly we'll have a new contract in place, which will reflect favorably on what WCTV was trying to achieve in the coming year. I want to thank Ruth, especially for her work in working on the future plans of WCTV. She was very instrumental in getting the information together and a lot of the figures that we needed to present for the case that we wanted to present to Continental Cablevision for why we wanted to obtain the level of funding that we were receiving in the past and what we feel we should be receiving in the future. So I thank her very much for a lot of the effort that she put in on doing that. And I want to thank everybody for the opportunity, having served as treasurer for WCTV for the last 3 years. It's been a great learning experience, and I hope the new treasurer will be able to do a good job, and I'm willing to help them in any way they need to carry on with WCTV. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Now Now we'll have an executive director's report from Ruth Kennedy.
Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, Mike, too, for your report. And actually, I'd like to take this time to thank everybody for coming. This is a great turnout. After all, the members' meeting is about members, so it's really great to see all of you here tonight. I think one of the things the annual meeting lets us do is gives us all a chance to look back on some of the accomplishments, improvements, and progress that WCTV's made in the past year. Public access television is continually evolving, and you'll find programming changes as volunteers come and go. New technologies make it possible for WCTV to offer new resources to the community, but with all of those changes, from the addition also of new staff people and the addition of new equipment, one thing always remains constant, and that is the dedication of WCTV members to preserving the Access Center for the future. WCTV fought its biggest battle this year. 1997 marked the, we already touched on this a little bit, but 1997 marked the end of Wilmington's 10-year license with Continental Cable. WCTV was created by the expiring license, therefore it was crucial that, for WCTV to continue to exist, that the community rally in support of WCTV and insist that provisions be included in the new license that would ensure WCTV's operation for the duration of a second 10-year license. For the better part of 2 years, the town's Cable Advisory Task Force has been doing just that. Some members of the task force are also on WCTV's board of directors, and they are, I know most of them are here tonight, Charlie Gilbert, who I think is in another room at the moment, Sandra Curtin, thanks Sandra, Mike Dostevsky, Henry Latta, who's also out here tonight, and Michael Newhouse. Although, like we said, the license hasn't been signed at this point, Wilmington can rest assured that WCTV has been included and will continue to operate for the next 10 years to come. As I'm sure you are all aware, there are many other people hard at work behind the scenes on projects that help to make WCTV a success. One of the bigger projects WCTV has undertaken this year has been an ongoing internship program with Wilmington High School. For the first time, students were able to earn credit, school credit for work they have done outside of the classroom. WCTV was the lucky recipient of 4 accredited interns. Their hard work has been extremely valuable and has produced some of WCTV's most highly visible programming, among that many of the high school athletics. WCTV's high school interns are, and I'm going to name them all, some of them are here, Chris Cassidy, who's in the control room. Hi, Chris. Sean Neville, who is also in the control room, Bill Tate, and Adam Meixler, who is standing at a camera right now behind all of you. For those of you also with access to the internet, Adam has taken on the challenging job of developing WCTV's web page, which is going to hopefully put our best foot forward out into the cyber world. Another interesting project is our work with the high school video class. And this is a credited course which is part of the high school curriculum, and class members from this class visit us on almost a daily basis. Their work has included public service announcements produced for the high school, videotaping of some of the high school special events, and they're producing the soon-to-premiere, at the start of its 2nd season, the high school news program called WHS Up Close. So you'll have to keep a lookout for that. Their teacher, Suzette Hall, has, actually Suzette Durso, she's been married, has provided some valuable input and help with developing this course, and I'd like to also acknowledge that some of those high school students are here tonight. We've got Doug Bonarigo. Doug, you can just raise your hand so we can all see who you are. And I know that Mike Sweet is here, Jill Morin's here, out in the control room. I'm not sure. Dave Williams is here. Scott Ferguson just poked his head around the corner. Hi, Mike. So they're all here tonight, and I'm really glad they were able to attend. Another new thing, hopefully you're all getting your mail, is the WCTV newsletter, which had a really huge facelift this year. We all have WCTV member and Macintosh wizard Ron Bucari to thank for this. Ron, if you could just raise your hand and wave to everybody. He's at a camera behind us. I'd like to thank him personally for all the hard work he's put into this newsletter. It is actually one of the best I've seen, and we can all feel very proud knowing that Ron has put so much hard work into it. Also, this is a night to thank people, and I'd like to thank the outgoing board members for the commitment and hard work that they have put into advancing Wilmington Community Television this past year. Sandra Curtin, who will be leaving the board tonight, and Mike Nastepsy, they're both retiring after 4 years of very hard service, and they've provided leadership and direction for the organization through policy development and revisions and strong fiscal management. So Mike and Sandra, I'd like to thank both of you for all of your hard work. I'd also like to acknowledge Cheryl and Chet Soderquist, who are also retiring from the board tonight. They've also provided valuable assistance in the past years, and it has been great. Also they've been very helpful tonight with tonight's setup of the meeting, and also Chet and Cheryl, thank you. I'm also going to take this opportunity to thank my staff. They put in a lot of long, hard hours and have been basically really instrumental in making public access television in Wilmington a success. Joan Gardner you all know her as the pleasant voice on the other end of the phone when you call WCTV. She is always available to answer questions, and believe me, those questions range from the phone's ringing right now if you can hear it. Or answer questions or help on any of the numerous situations that come up every day. She's out on the front lines, so Joan, without her, I don't know what we would do. WCT would just stop dead. She also coordinated the fabulous buffet dinner we've had tonight, so if any of you have had any of that, and I think we all have, you can thank her for that one as well. Dan Mio is the newest addition to WCTV's staff. He started in November, and we threw him straight into the fire by assigning him the task of producing tonight's documentary, which we're going to be premiering tonight. He came through with a blaze of glory on the documentary. It's called WCTV, Connecting the Community, and it will tell the story of WCTV for years to come for the community. There have been many other people over the past year who have been given their time on various projects. The Meixler family has always been available to lend a hand, so thank you to them. And they were here last summer when we were painting our whole facility again. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the many volunteer producers who put in hundreds of hours and produce hundreds of hours of programming every year. And the entire community has them to thank because the whole community's benefited from those programs. And basically, I think we all owe everybody a round of applause for that. So. Thanks. I think we all have a lot to feel proud of. WCTV continues to offer valuable resources to the residents of Wilmington in the form of access to media technologies. And as more residents are made aware of these resources that are available, more of them are going to take advantage of them. That will only further WCTV's mission of building community through communication. As you leave tonight, think about your neighbors, your friends, and your acquaintances. Do they already know about WCTV? Do they know about the opportunities available here? If not, take a few minutes to tell them. After all, WCTV is only as good as the people who take advantage of the resources available. Again, I'd like to thank you all for coming and wish you many hours of happy producing. Thanks.
Thank you, Ruth. The next thing we'd like to do is our election. And I think what I will do is list who is running for what positions. We have actually an election ballot, which I think you have in front of you. If not, I will read through it for you. There are 3 candidates who are presently on the board and have chosen to run to be re-elected for a second term. Those candidates would be Paul Dion, David Hicks, and Jolene Meixler. One person has chosen to run for a 2-year seat, and that would be James Gillis. There are 2 one-year seats available, and James Mahoney and David Mason have chosen to run for those. Now, while we vote for those positions, we will premiere the WCTV Connecting the Community, which will begin running shortly. Okay, do I have a second on that? Okay, John? So the decision has been made and the motion has been made and seconded to cast a single vote for all the people who are running for office. Is there any discussion on that? So would you indicate by saying aye if you agree with that vote?
Community Involvement Information Technology. This is Wilmington Community Television, committed to the freedom of speech and the right of every citizen to access the media. WCTV is a vital communication conduit to the residents of Wilmington. The creation of WCTV and what it has become is the result of many dedicated Wilmington residents sharing a common vision.
It seems to me that community access TV today is a real valuable way for bringing the community together. Today in our society, people are really isolated, even in the midst of a growing society, a growing population in Wilmington and other communities. There's still a sense of isolation, as people often don't know their neighbors as well as they once did. People with busy lives who have two jobs, both parents working and kind of get home just busy trying to get to know each other, a lot of times don't know what's happening around in the community. And so it seems to me in our society today, community access television really helps provide that sense of community that doesn't really exist in a lot of other ways. And especially for, with our specific situation in the church, it's amazing how many people I hear that are involved or in the community that hear our service and watch our service on TV. People that aren't even associated with the church, but they just like the fact that it's a locally broadcast of religious service. There's plenty of other things you can get from all over the country, but there's not many other services that are local. And so they have a connection to the community. There's a number of shut-ins, a number of people who don't get out very often or might be away on a Sunday, so miss either our church service that they might be a part of, or else just miss their church service in this community, whatever denomination might be, and come home and are able to see it on TV and feel connected in a way, know what's happening. They hear the people who we're raising up in concern or prayers for, and kind of feel connected to the people sitting in the pews and connected to the community in general. So I really feel it's a wonderful vehicle for connecting people, and very important in our society.
Local access has presented a number of opportunities for people. First of all, it's given residents an opportunity to get a better sense of what local government is doing, being able to see what is happening at Board of Selectmen's meetings, school committee meetings, and other town meetings, and so on. It's given residents an opportunity to do their own programming, whether it is a hobby or otherwise, to create their own programming for broadcast. It's given kids an opportunity, students an opportunity, both as a recreational resource to find out about how you program and how you set up shows, and also as an educational opportunity. I'm sure there are students that have gone on from here and perhaps taken courses in college in broadcasting. So those opportunities have just been tremendous, and I think at this point WCTV has become an institution in town.
WCTV was created in 1987 as part of Wilmington's license renewal with Greater Boston Cable Corporation. Soon after the system was purchased by Continental Cablevision, WCTV's volunteer board of directors spent the next 2 years developing policies, hiring staff, and building the access center.
I really don't think the selectmen really know what they were getting into. And I think now that they found out, they think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Well, I saw that some really clever people were involved on that board, excluding myself, but they really knew the law, knew what was offered to the town, and had the sense to make the most of it. So initially we put on one station, but immediately jumped to 3 stations because Charlie Gilbert had the insight to say if we don't use these, the Continental or somebody else will use it for other purposes. So that was one major change, that it immediately went from few meetings, then it went to 3 channels, and everybody knew that it was worthwhile to do that.
I became the Chamber of Commerce business representative and to the board of directors, and there were a variety of representatives. We all started meeting in town hall, and literally there was nothing. There was a concept. There was a group of people who had an idea and a goal, but we sat down that first night and said, well, what is this going to be? You know, what's your idea and where is it going to come from? That was in 1986. And we met for quite some time in the town hall and talked about everything from what kind of equipment are we going to have to how are we going to run it, what are our rules going to be. And basically we spent our whole first year just talking and finding a location. From there we hired our first general manager, and he operated out of some rented office space that my mom, Ann Mahoney, donated. He had a desk there and he just did some occasional shoots. But it was an adventure, I'll have to say that, because we were educating the community about what WCTV could be, and we were also trying to formulate ourselves at the same time.
I have to say that when I came in here today, I was really proud of us in the town of Wilmington, and I felt we had spent our 5% very well, because we've gone from being a kind of hit or miss starting out operation to a very professional operation. And those of us who were on that board in the beginning, I think, saw a lot of growth. And I didn't leave the board until we finally set up ways that people would leave the board after a number of years of service. And you could run again within a year if you wished. But I felt that when I left, this place was launched, and we were going to go on to do wonderful things. And I feel that we have, and I would hate to lose it.
Community members involved with WCTV are instrumental to its continuing success. Many of the town's organizations have utilized WCTV's resources to further their own mission and increase community awareness of their goals and objectives.
Continue to this day to televise the auction. It's run on a 2-night basis. The first night, the auction is held right here in the studio and is televised live throughout Wilmington. The second night, the auction is televised at the Knights of Columbus and broadcast on tape. But the first night, when we do it live from the studio, it's given us a tremendous amount of publicity and a tremendous amount of exposure. And quite frankly, over the past 7 years, it's changed the face of the auction. It's made it a completely different event for us, and it's allowed us to publicize what the Wilmington Rotary Club does throughout the town. It's been a lot of fun for us too.
I think that this is one of the best opportunities for the senior center to put its best foot forward and explain themselves and what they have to offer to the eligible seniors who have not yet come up to the senior center and become a part of it. They literally don't know what they're missing. And every few days we do have someone new, and some of them admit that they became interested because they saw the scenes on television and they thought to themselves, well, they aren't just sitting around and playing poker or playing cards with each other or tic-tac-toe or something like that. They look like ordinary people having a good time doing what ordinary people do, and that's what it is.
We actually use WCTV a great deal for publicizing the whole recycling effort. A number of different programs that have come about since then. The curbside recycling, publicizing that, publicizing the leaf and yard waste pickup, also publicizing the backyard composting program. So it really, I think, is a tremendous asset for the town as an alternative to simply putting information in the newspaper.
WCTV's coverage of governmental meetings and political debates has become essential in educating and informing more of the public about the decisions that affect the town of Wilmington.
In terms of the life of WCTV, I became town manager. So I became town manager in June of 1990. And at that time, WCTV was really beginning to do more. And of course, they were televising meetings of the Board of Selectmen and other public agencies. And I think what it has done, and it's probably a trite and overused expression, but it's brought government much closer to the people. And one of the things that I find that it does is it eliminates a middleman, so to speak. And I make no ill comments on the news media, but certainly you're getting somebody else's point of view when they're reporting on an activity that happens at a selectmen's meeting, for example. Now people don't have to wait to find out what happens. They find out immediately, and at the same time, they find out without any kind of bias. They're able to make up their own mind as to what was said.
We first became aware of WCTV and the promise of it when we were doing candidates nights, and we wanted to get that information out to the broader community. And at this point, I don't really recall what year it was that we did the first candidates night on cable, but it was very well received by the community, and the candidates, of course, just loved it because they were able to get their message out in a way that was unbiased, that was fair, because the League is one organization that makes sure when we do candidates forums that everybody gets a fair opportunity. So that's been a wonderful thing.
Well, certainly one of the first areas that the town hall became involved in WCTV was through coverage of the selectmen's meetings. And I think that really changed the whole dynamic of selectmen's meetings once they became televised. Probably largely for the better, because people now are able to sit home and tune into the selectmen's meeting and have a greater sense as to what is happening, as opposed to having to go down to town hall.
Education has become an integral aspect of WCTV. Video production classes are being taught throughout the school system, including the high school and the middle schools. It is at the high school where these classes have been incorporated as part of the regular curriculum.
I've always looked at WCTV from kind of the educational viewpoint, because that's how I really got involved. I was working in the schools at the time and always thought, this is wonderful. I mean, you can put all these kids on TV. You can say, look at the wonderful projects the teachers are doing. I thought it was just a wonderful resource.
I've definitely learned a lot from, 5 years here at the station, because it's a lot, my goal is actually, my career goal would be to work in broadcasting at a Boston news station. So, the stuff that I've learned here is going to give me a tremendous advantage over my freshman year in college. I'll probably know a lot more than somebody who's just starting out.
I mean, when I came in here, at first, I had no idea how to run a camera, and I've been learning ever since. I mean, now I know how to work basically everything here, and I can help pretty much anyone out with anything.
The classes from the high school are certainly using the facility the way that I always hoped that they would. And that didn't happen overnight. We had to find teachers who were willing to do it. We had to solve the problem of the scheduling because they have to walk over here and walk back. But in the last 3 years, Suzette Hall and then Kathy Chabot, those kids have learned something. And we have some kids who are going on to a career in video.
The things I've always wanted to see come through here through the school department have all in all worked out better because the young people we're getting are almost the cream of the crop as far as this business is concerned.
WCTV is committed to being part of the communication loop of Wilmington and will continue to be in the future. In a world where technology is rapidly changing, WCTV will be crucial in keeping the residents of Wilmington informed by the residents themselves.
Awareness through communication. Anytime you can watch a program, you know, the community, I think, is a little bit more aware right now of what the fire department is, what the firefighters do on a day-to-day basis. We last year had a program, which is one of my favorite type of programs that WCTV does. It was generated by kids that wanted to produce their own program, and they came to the fire department. They interviewed the firefighters on duty, and so there was a great learning curve for them, but also a great, again, medium for the community to see what the Wilmington firefighters do, and you know, so that awareness just makes it the community run that much smoother.
I think with all the new technology that's coming about, right at this point, we're not really sure where everything is going to go. But as long as WCTV is around, people will still be able to express their opinions or their viewpoints or their excitement about a certain topic or event within town. And no matter how big these conglomerates get, with WCTV still around, the guy in the street can say what he thinks or make a show that he's interested in. He could do stamp collecting if he wants, and he can still do that. With the big conglomerates, he could never go and knock on their front door and say, gee, I'd like to do a cooking program, please. I mean, without credentials, nobody would listen to him. But here, we'll listen to him, we'll help him out, we'll bring him to this edit bay and say, do your thing. And that's something I think that as long as WCTV's around, that's what our technology can continue to do with the big conglomerates doing whatever they want. Welcome back. Welcome back. I think that we all owe a little applause to Dan Miot for a wonderful job on that production. While you were enjoying that production, the members of the board, the new members of the board, chose officers. And as I go around and introduce all the people who are presently going to be on the 97-98 board, I will mention if they are an officer. There are three people who are absent: David Hicks, James Gillis, and David Mason. The people who are present are Paul Dion, Tina Stewart, Barbara McCallum, Michael Newhouse, who is now the secretary, John Doherty, who is now the vice president, Jolene Meixler, who is the president, and Jim Mahoney, who's the treasurer. Okay, so I'd like to congratulate everyone on the new board, and I'm sure that they will do a bang-up job for WCTV this year. Again, I would just like to thank everyone for all their help during this year, and I did not want to leave without mentioning our clerk, who has worked very hard, Mary Leard, who is hiding way, way back in the control room. But thank you very much, Mary. She was my memory, which I am losing quickly, so I appreciated all the help she gave me. So we could not leave, and you'll notice that we all look really content, because we had a wonderful buffet supplied by some wonderful food establishments in the town of Wilmington. So I'd like to name them all, and perhaps you could look at all the contented looks on all these faces from the excellent food that we feasted on tonight. Rocco's Restaurant, Samard's Roast Beef, Papagino's, Brothers, Rocky's North End Bakery, a new establishment, Porchside Sandwich Company, Michael's Place, Royal Dynasty, and Mr. Charles Gilbert. So thank you all very much for all your help, and I will take a motion to adjourn. I guess that would be Henry Latta's position to do that. Okay, and could I have a second on adjournment? John? And all in favor, would you say aye? Aye. Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you back here next year for the next annual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.